It's Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. Welcome to your daily news update on Blip Brief. Small, but almost everything updated every weekday. Okay, let's dive right in. Indian markets, well, they took a bit of a tumble yesterday. Pretty significant, actually.
Yeah, driven almost entirely by that shock out of the U.S. The benchmark indices, they finished lower. Nifty 50 down about 0.5%.
And the Sensex dipped around 0.6%. And the reason, it seems pretty clear-cut this time.
Oh, absolutely. It's the technology sector. A massive drag following that announcement, the U.S. president proposing that huge one-time fee on H-1B visas, $100,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's not just noise. So the market reaction wasn't just cautious. It was more like panic selling almost.
Exactly. It's as if the cost of doing business over there just went through the roof overnight. The Nifty IT index really led the fall.
And we saw in the big games, right? Tech Mahindra, TCS, Infosys, Wipro.
Yeah.
They plunged. What were the figures again?
We're talking drops between 1.8% and 3.2%. When those giants fall that much, well, the whole market feels it.
Definitely. So the market's pricing in, like, the worst-case scenario from this fee, assuming it hits the bottom line immediately.
That seems to be the initial reaction, yes. But, this is where we need to dig a bit deeper. The sticker shock is obviously real,
Right.
and the politics behind it are clearly restrictive. But, interestingly, the big brokerages, they're already suggesting the actual earnings hit for Indian IT might be, well, surprisingly modest.
Modest. How? I mean, a $100,000 fee per visa. That sounds like it has to crush margins. Where's the disconnect?
Well, it really speaks to how adaptable these big IT firms are. The thinking is this policy just speeds up trends already happening.
Okay, like what?
Two main things. First, more localization, hiring more permanent folks within the U.S. itself. Yes, it costs more, but it gets around the H-1B issue. Second, more offshoring. If it gets too expensive to use visa staff in, say, California, you shift that work back to India, Bangalore, Chennai, where costs are lower.
Right, offshoring makes sense.
Yeah.
But localization, even if it dodges the visa fee, aren't U.S. salaries much higher? Doesn't that still squeeze profits? Feels like you're caught.
It definitely raises costs, no doubt. But the bet is that economies of scale plus shifting towards higher value, more specialized work will offset some of that. It's a strategic pivot, really.
So moving away from just bodies on site to more niche expertise.
Exactly. So that initial market plunge may be more of an emotional reaction to the geopolitical noise rather than the final business reality after these firms adapt.
Interesting. So maybe some investors who panic sold yesterday might be rethinking that soon. Okay. But while tech was taking a beating, other parts of the market were actually quite strong, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't a broad sell-off at all. Really highlights the strength we're seeing in domestic infrastructure, manufacturing.
Like which sectors specifically?
Well, BSC power surged, 1.7%? That's significant. Nifty Energy and Nifty Commodities also looked robust, both up around 0.7%.
So wasn't Adani Enterprises a standout?
It certainly was. Jumped 4.2%. It really underscores the point-specific external issues hit export-focused IT. But the sectors building and powering India still charging ahead.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of domestic confidence, the IPO market seems completely unfazed by the tech drama.
Totally ignoring it. We've got a whole bunch of IPOs opening today. Anand Rathi Share, Solar World Energy Solutions, Juro Institute.
Juro, the education tech firm.
That's the one. It signals, a real appetite for fresh growth stories. Institutional money isn't panicking. It seems to be looking past this short-term visa issue.
And that confidence seems backed up by the underlying macro data, too. Let's talk about India's core sector output.
Yeah, that's looking really strong. Grew at 6.3% year-on-year in August. You have to remember, that's the fastest growth we've seen in, 15 months?
6.3%. That's impressive. What's driving that?
It's largely coming from strong performance in coal and steel, which isn't just numbers on a page, right? It means heavy industry, infrastructure projects. They're demanding more resources faster. That fuels the confidence we see.
And that confidence feeds into spending, which brings us to the new GST rates kicking in, GST 2.0, as people are calling it.
Right. And the consumer reaction seems immediate. The idea was cheaper consumer durables, TVs, ACs, fridges, and people responded instantly.
How so?
Well, anecdotally, you heard about packed auto dealerships and the big e-commerce sites. They reported festive sales orders jumping over 20% on day one, partly grabbing those GST cuts.
It's like a perfect storm, in a good way. Positive growth data, rural optimism. Wasn't there a survey showing 72% of rural households expect income growth?
Yes, exactly. So that optimism combined with the GST cuts fuels immediate spending. But the industry impact of GST 2.0, especially long term, could be even bigger.
Particularly for renewables,
Mm.
right? You mentioned fixing that inverted duty structure. Can you break that down simply? Sounds complex.
It was complex. Basically, the old system taxed the raw materials for things like solar panels higher than the finished product, which, makes no sense if you want domestic manufacturing.
Ah, okay. So it discouraged making things here.
Precisely. And it tied up companies' working capital, fixing that. The government estimates it could save renewable energy investors something like RO's 1.5 lakh crore by 2030.
1.5 lakh crore. That is a massive number. Huge boost for green energy projects.
Absolutely, and it helps the power distribution companies too, the discoms, expected to cut their annual costs by up to Rs 3,000 crore. These aren't small changes, they're designed to really accelerate investment in vital infrastructure.
Okay, sticking with domestic corporates just for a moment, Form P's results looked interesting.
Yeah, impressive signs of maturity there. Revenue up 40% last fiscal year, and importantly, their net loss narrowed by about 13.4%.
That's the combination investors like, isn't it? Fast growth and a clear path towards actually making money.
Exactly. Shows the business model is working, becoming more efficient as it scales.
Okay, let's shift focus now. Go global. Wall Street just keeps climbing. Another record close.
Third session in a row hitting record highs for U.S. indexes. And again, it's tech leading the charge.
Nvidia and Apple.
Yep. Still lots of optimism around NVIDIA and AI infrastructure, plus anticipation for Apple. The U.S. market just seems to keep finding reasons to push higher.
But elsewhere, maybe some nervousness. Gold prices surged, hit a new record high yesterday, up 1.6%. What's driving that flight to safety?
It's all about expectations around the U.S. Federal Reserve. Investors are hanging on every word from Fed Chair Powell, waiting for his remarks.
So the gold surge is basically a bet on...
On upcoming U.S. interest rate cuts, if rates fall, the dollar might weaken, making gold, which is priced in dollars, more attractive. It's a hedge, essentially. The market's betting the Fed turns dovish soon.
And that nervousness seemed to bounce back and hit the rupee too. Linked back to the H-1B news again.
Directly. Classic case of policy anxiety hitting currency via remittance fears. The rupee weakened a bit against the dollar.
Because the market worries those high visa fees mean fewer Indian professionals working in the U.S. sending less money home.
Exactly. Less remittance flow means less capital coming into India, which puts downward pressure on the rupee.
Makes sense. Meanwhile, oil prices dipped slightly. Brent crude down about 0.4%. That seems surprising given all the geopolitical tension.
It does feel a bit counterintuitive, but it suggests that, for now at least, worries about global demand possibly softening are outweighing the risks of supply disruptions from the Middle East or Russia.
So demand concerns are capping prices, despite the risks.
That seems to be the market's bet right now, yeah.
And finally, on the geopolitical front, what's happening at the UN summit?
Well, the diplomatic tension is pretty high. France and several other countries are expected to formally recognize a Palestinian state.
Which goes against the U.S. and Israeli position, right?
Directly defies it. It highlights a growing split, really, on how world powers approach the Middle East conflict. A significant diplomatic move to watch.
Okay, let's wrap up with something positive. A really cool scientific innovation, this crystal camera.
Yeah, this sounds genuinely game-changing for nuclear medicine. Scientists have created a new gamma-ray detector based on perovskite material.
Perovskite. What's special about that compared to current tech?
Well, current detectors often need, really intense cooling, or they're bulky and expensive. Perovskite has this unique crystal structure that's much better at detecting gamma rays, and it works efficiently at room temperature.
Room temperature, so no massive cooling needed.
Exactly. That means you can potentially replace these big, complex, costly machines with something much smaller, more sensitive, like a crystal camera.
Okay, so smaller, more sensitive, no complex cooling. What does that mean for patients, for you and me?
It means medical scans could become sharper, faster, and safer. Sharper means better, earlier disease detection, think cancer. Faster means less time in the machine, more patients scanned.
And safer.
Potentially lower radiation doses needed for the same quality image. Plus, because perovskite is potentially cheaper to make into detectors, this could make high-quality internal imaging much more accessible, especially in places that can't afford the current multi-million-dollar machines.
Wow. Sharper, faster, safer, and cheaper medical diagnostics. That truly is a breakthrough. A great note to end on. And just before you go, a quick note, this deep dive commentary was put together using advanced AI. We always strive for accuracy, but please do cross-verify any crucial information yourself. Your informed decisions are what matter most.